Hello and welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today I'm interviewing Jonathan Adashek, the Chief Communications Officer and Chief Marketing Officer for IBM. Jonathan is responsible for overseeing the company's global marketing, comms, and corporate citizenship organization. He looks over the ESG, analyst relations, demand gen, branding, business development for government, social media sponsorships, and strategic events across the company. Jonathan brings more than 25 years of experience across domestic and global teams, serving different sectors, including tech, automotive, manufacturing, government, retail, finance, energy, B2B, and B2C. Jonathan actually worked in the Clinton administration, White House, and Treasury Department, and on several U.S. presidential campaigns. Today, we are talking about how you can create a long-lasting reputation by focusing on disrupting your own company. We talk about leadership principles of customer-focused companies, and we talk about what IBM is doing now and how they continue to disrupt and differentiate by being innovative. Let's get to the episode. Please enjoy Jonathan Adashek. This podcast episode is sponsored by IBM. IBM Consulting designs your business to understand and adapt to customer needs fast. IBM has helped businesses like Audi UK and Frito-Lay with their approach to customer lifecycle transformation, creating personalized communications, demand-driven commerce, and automated customer service. Working with you and IBM's ecosystem of partners, IBM applies business design, industry expertise, automation, and AI across your platforms, your workflows, and your business. Jonathan, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. It's really good to see you again because I just met you in Vegas like 2 weeks ago.
It is fantastic to be here. It seems like just yesterday we saw each other. Thanks for having me.
So IBM, an incredible brand, long legacy, started in 1911. Something I didn't know is there are almost 300,000 employees and a lot of revenue. You have a lot of responsibility as CMO and Chief Communications Officer and also owning CX. So for our audience that don't know you, can you just talk a little bit about your incredibly diverse career trajectory and how you came into the role as CMO recently?
Yeah, it's I'm really fortunate to be here. IBM's an amazing company, and the passion that IBMers have for the business and for our clients and for our partners is unlike anything I've seen anywhere, maybe except for Walmart.
Okay.
When Walmart was my client a while back. But I've been really fortunate. I've had a great set of opportunities. I worked in politics in the Clinton administration, the Clinton White House, Treasury Department. I spent some time overseas. It was on John Kerry's campaign. I was at Edelman, Microsoft. Then I went to Japan with Nissan, and then to Paris with Renault Nissan Mitsubishi, and then ended up here at IBM. And when I started with the company, I came in as Chief Communications Officer. And just over a year ago, Arvind Krishna, our CEO, asked me to take on marketing as well. And really push, he asked me to do three things. He said, I want you to push for a transformation in the function. Focus on brand campaign and getting that launched, getting it right, and getting it out the door to engage with our clients. I want you to look at demand and how we really get the demand pipeline moving. And I want you to look at our events. We have a massive franchise of an event called Think, I would say. I'd say it's massive. And that's our annual event. And he said, how do we do this coming out of COVID in a different way? How do we get this back up running and moving? So those were the three immediate mandates that he gave me. It's gotten a lot bigger since then, engaging with, all of our client experiences and everything else that you talked about. But I love it. I think I've got the best job in the world.
So a lot of my audience might not know that IBM does a lot of customer experience consulting. So can you just talk about what that looks like and what type of consulting you guys do?
Yeah, so we've got a very diverse consulting operation in the company. We've got north of 100,000 consultants. And we look at a bunch of business transformation operations and how to optimize those operations. And that the consulting for the client experience and the customer experience is really important for us. And where it's also taking on a lot of steam right now is as AI applies to that. So it's where that's a place where you see the consulting side of the house coming together with the technology side of the house.
Jonathan, I'm really glad you mentioned AI because I read an interesting article yesterday. There's a quote from your CEO, Arvind Krishna, that today's workforce should be prepared to work hand in hand with AI.
Yep.
And you guys yourselves have gone through this incredible transformation with HR, shrinking from 700 people to 50 people to do some kind of mundane function. So could you just talk about like your feelings about that comment that the workforce needs to be thinking about AI in a very kind of open way?
Yeah, I'm fully aligned with Arvind. Our view as a company is that AI needs to augment people, not replace people.
Okay.
And if you look at what we did in that HR example that you're talking about, people get put up for promotions all the time. And to do that, this is inside our company, you need to gather all sorts of historical data to see how they're performing and compensation and all those things. So as they get promoted, you can figure out where they go, how comp changes, what levels, all those sorts of things. We figured out that you could automate that gathering of all the data. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is that's given to the HR leader, for example, or the manager. It could be for me. I still make that decision whether or not somebody gets promoted, but I don't have to spend hours and hours of time or have somebody on my team spend hours and hours of time gathering those various pieces of data from other places. Mm-hmm. So that is a huge place. I think, talking about customer experiences, when COVID hit, there was a big children's hospital in Atlanta, and we developed an AI model for them that allowed them to deploy that experience so that when people called and said, what do I do? My child is sick, whatever. And it was AI trained specifically for the hospital. So there's broad chat GPT conversations and large language models or generative AI conversations today. We're focused on AI for business. So back to that hospital example, you would get answers from an AI source that we trained through Watson Assistant to give answers as that hospital would want that to be the question answered. Mm-hmm. The key thing that it also did, though, was it allowed the hospital to take the doctors and the nurses who were answering those calls, put them back onto the floor so they could treat patients and help people deal with the immediate medical situation that was there. Mm-hmm. So that's an example of how we're using it.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that I've seen in the industry, it's not that the technology's not there. It's like, wouldn't everyone want that? Like, customers today want a more human experience. When you go to a hospital, you want to be treated like a person, or if your child is sick. So for me, it's a no-brainer that brands would want these technologies so they can create actually a more human experience and redeploy people in a way that actually adds value to the business. Let's talk about the work that you're doing in data and customer experience. When we were in Vegas at Adobe Summit, I had the chance to meet with some of your team members, and we were talking about some of the work you guys are doing to help with end-to-end integration of data at every step. Just before we started recording the podcast, we were just talking about the challenges for brands of doing omnichannel, of integrating data across the business to create a seamless customer experience. What are some tips you have for our listeners and viewers that they can start to think about data management in a more modern way?
Yeah, as we were talking about it before we started here, I think we both agreed nobody's doing it perfect today. And I think a big part of that is because there's so much data. There's so much more data that comes every day, and it continues. And how do you really make heads or tails of the data to start with? And then how do you better segment it so that you can use that data to deliver the best experience to your clients? Mm-hmm. For us as a company, we met at Adobe. We're really spending a lot of time investing in that Adobe stack to make sure that we can get a better surround on those clients, a better understanding of those clients, a better augmentation of the data that we've got so that then we can create the content that they need and deliver it to them where they are when they need it. But the other thing that we're doing a lot of is we're doing a lot more agile creation of content, I would say. Creating new pieces, getting them out there, A/B testing them, and pushing hard into the ones that work. And those that don't work, we're pulling those back. And doing that, we started that not long ago. It used to be months in process to get that content out. Now we're doing that. The first time we did it was just several months ago, and it's a week of time versus months of time. And now using things like Firefly and generative AI that are out there, we could create 1,000 draft images in moments. And then you can start picking what's there, using that data to then say, this is going to work with this group. And some of it is also just taking that risk and saying, I think this is going to work, and being comfortable with the fact that if it doesn't, nothing's ever perfect. If it doesn't work, that you're going to go make a quick change because you're going to track it.
So one of the things we talked about in Vegas at Adobe Summit was just data personalization, cookieless, with Google and Chrome moving cookies, third-party data and all that in 2024. Personalization, I would say we're still just not there yet. I mean, as you know, as a customer and everybody watching and listening, so many of us are marketed experiences that aren't relevant for us. What are marketers getting wrong about personalization that what can you help them with? Because, across the board, many of us are just still getting experiences that are not relevant marketed to us.
I think a key place here is we were talking about AI. AI is going to make a big difference here.
Yeah.
Because you can then, it goes back to the data point and the AI point. You can look at the data. You can develop some predictive models using AI. You can understand patterns of interest from clients or from companies so that you can then go, in the B2B space, I'm focused more on the company side. So using AI, I can now look at patterns of interest across a company or across an organization, let alone getting deeper into the individual so that I start serving that content to them. We have a long way to go, but as we start using that and developing those those initial models, I think we're seeing good progress. But as I said, a long way to go. But I think everybody's just goes back to be willing to take some risks.
So patterns of interest, what does that mean, Jonathan?
It means when I pick a big insurance company who might be one of our clients, or a big credit card company. I see 10 people, 20 people, 30 people who are coming from that organization who are coming to our website, for example, or showing up at an event we're doing, or engaging on a piece of content that's out there in the web, not our website, but an ad that might be out there. I can start saying, there are 30 people that are from company X who are focused on security. How do I then figure out where they are, especially if they start feeding me data and signing up, that I can then track where they are. And then I start feeding them more focused content that I think they're going to engage with. So it's all about trying to move them into the funnel.
Yeah.
It's taking those specific client interests or individual interests and expressions and tying them together across a larger organization to get the patterns there.
So something my audience is very interested in is earning the right to sell. So many of our audience listening and watching, they're on the contact center side. They're there after the transaction. They want the right to upsell that client to say, you've already bought from us. You might also like this product. How does IBM earn the right to sell, like using data and using personalization, knowing the customer? Or do you guys do that? Like how do you use data to upsell?
I think everybody's doing it in some way, shape, or form. I think foundationally, it's got to be built on trust, right? That is something that I think, whether that's an initial sell or an upsell, you've got to develop a trusted relationship with people that then allows you to have a deeper conversation. And if you go back to this data point, you can then go have a conversation and say to somebody, this is an area I know you've been focused on. Have you thought about this piece, which will complement it in that way. Or I know, you've started to express some interest over here. Mm-hmm. So it's, from my point of view, it's a delicate balance, because you've got to see, when do you have to nurture it more and start feeding them some more information? And when do you actually go and move in for the upsell and to try and engage them further?
So something interesting about IBM is you guys have continued to pivot for so many years and continue to be successful pivoting and pivoting and pivoting. We've seen brands like even just David's Bridal again declare bankruptcy again because they were disrupted. So what advice do you have for other executives at big companies that want to move the big ship, but they're just struggling to get that culture of the customer experience mindset and that appetite for innovation and disrupting oneself?
You hit it exactly. It's
great.
Big shift. It's a big ship.
Yeah.
And I was given this piece of advice when I was at Microsoft, when I joined Microsoft. I came out of an agency. I came out of political campaigns where you want to make a change. You do it on a dime, right? You move 90-degree turns right away. Big companies are like giant aircraft carriers, if not bigger. And you have to understand that if you want to make a 90-degree shift turn on something, that you've got to do it in a series of 1 and 2 degree turns that will eventually add up. So I think it's focused on incremental, and sometimes you can get bigger than 1 or 2 degree turns, understanding that those pieces are going to add up and not losing focus on what your ultimate goal is. If people do that, for me, I have found it has helped me immensely in my career as I've been in corporate America.
Do you have any advice for leaders that are struggling to get people on board with them to make these big changes and be excited about an uncertain future?
Yeah. Be transparent.
Okay.
I mean, it is. And when you say get people on board, I'm assuming you mean employees.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, to me, it's about being transparent. It's about being authentic. One of the things I do is I send an email to my entire team around the world every Friday.
Okay.
And it can talk about anything from a business moment or business focus to my wife and kids and I are at the beach or going away on vacation or I'm too tired. And I think if you show some vulnerability and that you're a human, people are more inclined to come along. I wrote a note one day. I had the worst, hands down, if not it was definitely my worst, but I bet you lots of people have never performed as poorly as I did in a meeting one day with the CEO and all of my peers. To the point that I called the CEO immediately after the meeting. I was like, I apologize. That's not what you expected me. It was a good conversation. It was fine. But I wrote a note to my entire team and told them exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. And people were like, wait a minute. I'd never get this sort of authenticity and open view from leaders in the past. Mm-hmm. I'm nothing special as a leader. There are lots of people who do this exact same thing. But I find that if you do it and other people who do it, who I talk to, you bring the organization along with you. They're more willing to engage with you, to talk to you about challenges, to bring you opportunities, and to talk to you about where they want to go and what their career is. So you get more out of them. How do you get them to bring their whole self to work, which really allows them to deliver their best?
I love that example because I think that in order to create a certain type of culture, you have to be the living embodiment of the culture you want to create. So I think that's a wonderful example. What else should our audience know about IBM's approach to customer experience that is exciting and new and a focus of IBM in the future?
For us, we talked about IBM. We talked about AI a little bit. And I think that is going to drive even further into where we're going in the future with our clients. And our experience, we really, really, really are trying to get so much more focused on what we are telling our clients. I think one of the things we've done in the past is we tried to be everything to everybody all the time.
Right.
And when you do that, you stand for nothing.
Yeah.
When I got this job offer, I called a friend who's at another large tech company and very senior in that tech company. And he said, that's fantastic, because he knew I was looking for a job and trying to figure out what to do. And he said, that's great. I'm thrilled for you. He said, I have one question. I said, what's that? He said, what does IBM do?
Right.
And and this is somebody who everybody knows the company, and it said to me, we've got to get more focused in what we're going to do. For me, at that point, it was just communications. I was like, God, I am so happy I took this job because it gives me an opportunity. It shows me there's green space there. And I think that's where we're trying to go with our client engagement and our customers, our partners, is to get really a lot more focused on what we do and also declaring what we don't do and being honest with those clients who come to us and say, I want you to do this. And sometimes you just have to say no. So I think you're going to see a lot more focus, continued focus from us in the future, building off of a more detailed set of messages and detailed campaigns.
Yeah, I really believe that today's world requires so much clarity because there's so much chaos going on. And if you can simplify and offer clarity, you will just attract so many opportunities and people to you.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you know what? If it doesn't work, learn from the mistake, fail fast, and fix it.
Love that. Are you ready to have some fun so our audience can get to know you a little bit on a more personal level?
I am.
All right. Well, let's do some rapid fire questions if you're ready. That sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. First question, Jonathan. What does your morning routine look like?
I'm usually up about 5:30, between 5 and 5:30. I check the mail. I look at what's happening in the news. I see what's going on with my favorite Wisconsin sports teams. I wish I could say I was exercising, but not as much as I should right now. And I get ready and I'm out the door. I try and be in the office by about 7 and just get going.
Do you have a unique leadership hack that helped get you to where you are today?
I think it's about two things. One, being transparent, and two, being authentic and being who you are and treating people the way you want to be treated.
Awesome. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I love spending time with my wife, my kids, running around the yard with the dog, taking some walks. It's great.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
Probably, I'm going to just put it in there. It's got to, of course, be Smart Talks, the IBM podcast that we do.
Okay, good. I should be on that podcast as a guest.
You should be. You should be. That is, of course, besides this one.
Oh, right. Beside the modern customer. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness. Wow, these are tough questions. I thought this was going to be like
always
blue or red. Perfect happiness is, I'm going to go back to my family.
Yeah.
That's my sweet spot.
Awesome. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Deep breath and like things happen. Just like nobody died. Fine. Just keep moving. Learn from it and keep going.
All right, Jonathan, your favorite type of vacation?
I love the beach. I do love the beach.
Yeah. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Jerry Garcia.
That was fast.
I'm a big fan. Giant fan.
Okay, cool. And if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Positive.
Great. Love it. Well, thank you for meeting me here. We're at the Annenberg School at USC, for our listeners and viewers that can't tell. And it's just been so fun seeing you again. So I hope you'll come back and spend more time with me.
Thanks for having me, and hopefully we'll see each other soon, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Sounds great. All of you have been tuning in to the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.